So welcome to the Golden Age podcast. We firmly believe that in spite of all the chaos and confusion in this world, there's actually a really bright future ahead of us. And once the heart of humanity awakens and we remember who we truly are, we're going to co-create a totally different world. One that is based on a very deep sense of interconnectedness, a direct experience of that we all here on this planet together, and a co-creation of a world full of abundance, beauty, love, and a purpose of living for the benefit of all beings. And I'm very happy to be here today with my friend Emmanuel, who is a very experienced yoga and meditation teacher. You're actually also one of my most important yoga teachers, who has traveled the world extensively, studied with many different teachers, many different traditions, and really dedicated himself to practicing and sharing the arts of yoga and meditation. So welcome, Emmanuel. I'm really happy to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you, Stefan. I'm happy to be here.
To start with right away, because yoga and meditation seems to be like a common thread in most conversations that I have about the golden age. But first of all, it's important for us to understand what does it actually mean, the golden age, in comparison to Kali Yuga, the dark age that we're in right now. Because for many people, I think this concept is not so familiar. So maybe can you explain to us a little bit about what does it actually mean, Kali Yuga, the dark age, and Satya Yuga, the golden age?
In the yogic tradition, there is many ways of interpreting these things. There is different ways of calculating these ages and the length of it and stuff, and the transition from one to in another. I'm not an expert in that, but most people agree that we are presently in this more dark age, Kali Yuga, and the main threat of this, the main characteristic of it, is that we are more blind towards our essence or our truth. We are more disconnected from our God nature or divine nature. So basically, we are all from source, even if we forgot about it. But in the dark age, we are much more not aware of it. We are much less aware of it. It means that we are much more stuck into materialism, into greed, and all the negative emotion. But the core is often characterized as greed and fear, attachment and aversion, and this leads towards a whole sequence of negative emotion. So that's kind of the main thing with Kali Yuga, is that we believe strongly that we are this body-mind consciousness, and we suffer from it, and we just don't have so much clarity about our essence compared to Satya Yuga, where
which is the golden age, right?
Yeah, the golden age. We would be much more aware of our essence. Means that we can still identify maybe partly to our body-mind consciousness, but with this clarity of knowing that in essence we are divine. And what does it mean? It means that we are interconnected with each other because we're all from source, and thus act much more from a place of love and compassion and helping each other and co-creating reality together, rather than in the dark age, Kali Yuga, where we are all so much stuck by fear that we tend to act only from the place of egoism. It's not. It's like this. It's because simply of forgetting our essence.
Yes.
It's just simply forgetting who we truly are, and having been kind of brought up, educated, not to remember that, just being stuck with personality and ego and possessions and not being educated from early age in this remembrance. when we look at all the ways of educating in India, it was incredible. Like if you would be born in, I don't know, even in middle age or earlier in India, you would be brought from, like, some mantras would be said to you when you are born, and it's just this remembrance of you are that, you are the divine, and it would be remind you all along the different age and different period of transition in your life through different rituals, ceremonies. And not only that there is God, but that you are in fact God, that you have this this essence in you. So this makes it also different from later religious paradigms like Christianity and Islam that came later on, where the main aspect of religion is more to believe in a God that is somehow outside. India, still till today, has this still strong remembrance that, okay, there is a myriad of archetypes which you can relate, but in essence, it's just a door, a step, a bridge towards reconnecting with your source. That could be called Brahman or whatever we call it, doesn't really matter.
And then once we recognize God or the divine source as our own nature, not only individually, but also as an entire culture, we are going to create totally different structures of society, culture, economy, politics on top of that than we're doing right now.
Yeah, totally. Like today, even recently, I was attending a small retreat online, and the topic was purpose and money, also, and the energy of money. Today, the energy of money is totally corrupted for
Yes.
for power, the sake of power and greed, accumulation. So we are in fear. So we accumulate, and in all the society, all the economical system has been kind of based on that, and there is some holding it and having it and holding it, and some who don't have it and are kind of totally slave of the others. And some clairvoyants, like Anastasia, this Russian mystic, she speaks about that it comes, in fact, still from the time of the Egyptian time, that slowly money kind of became the new form of slavery. While ultimately, in today's society, we need money. We need to provide for our needs, food and lodgement and stuff. So we need basically money. But money in itself is not a bad energy. Money is just a neutral energy, and the problem is just the greed that get attached. And the greed is what? It's a reaction towards the fear of scarcity. So that would make that. It's kind of a big difference of a society that is driven by kind of more dark forces compared to a society that we can imagine what could be in Satya Yuga, in this golden age.
So from the perspective of money, what do you think will be different once we're transitioning back into the golden age? How will money, what energy will money hold in a society?
As I said, the energy, the money itself is a neutral energy. So you do whatever you want. Some people say that people will just be kind of more trusting. The main problem is fear in the dark age. So if we start to trust more, then this aspect of greed will vanish. It's not about having a lot, but it's about a flow. So some even clairvoyant channels, teachers, they say that in fact the heart energy will become a kind of a new currency. Maybe there will be transition, obviously, from one to another.
Yes.
I don't know exactly. That's a little bit maybe the scary part is the transition in which we are now. But even if we still are in kind of intermediary process, if there will be still a kind of a normal currency, most of the time, the aspect that is kind of put in front often by many people tuning in with this golden age is the idea of a flow. It's a better flow, simply. As long as it flows, there is no problem. And this energy, in fact, is, you can say, it become a bit technical, but you can relate to it more as a holding, and it's more like kind of an earth way of looking at it, and bank account and house and all these things, and holding, and or you can see it more as water, and then it's more like a different energy. Both a way of relating it. It's not that the one related more with the earth is bad. It needs to be there as well, because in some case we need to effectively have a house, have a building to receive people, to give workshop, to whatever. But this dimension of flow maybe will come back more forward, and you can even say more connected with the heart. This like receiving, giving, receiving, giving, receiving, giving, receiving, giving, rather than trying to put everything in place to hold as much as possible, as we can see many examples today.
So it won't be about accumulating as much as possible for me, my little personality, but it will be about contributing as much as possible to the welfare of all, realizing that we are part of all.
Yeah, exactly. It's difficult to even fathom it today, because, I mean, in our society, in Western society, we had been in quite abundant condition. But as soon as you step out of that, you see that there is so much scarcity. And still, when we kind of meditate on that, we can see that we are still deeply rooted in this fear of scarcity. That is something that, even if we didn't suffer from hunger, if you just go 1 or 2 generations before, even our parents that maybe are born just at after the Second World War or something like that, they probably in very early childhood were exposed to some lack of food. After the Second World War, there was not so much food. So even us in Europe, we still have that in our ancestry, in heritage. So it is something that is difficult to unroot, but definitely when we think about golden age, there will be a flow. Everything would be less kind of put down by the weight of matter. Everything would be more flowing. The currency, the working together, and also nature. Our relationship to nature will be totally different. It's not about accumulating, stockpiling, and mining and all this thing. It will be just more of a flow. All these are somehow connected. The relationship to money, the relationship to nature, the relationship in between the different human beings, and the different human to animals, and whatever we can even think, even relationship towards other levels of frequency, or we can say even extraterrestrial, whatever. All it can be open at that level.
I also think that to transition into this golden age, we need to understand and forgive all these like structures that have been created, like the corrupt politicians, corporations, and so forth. To not make them the devil, but to understand that out of a collective fear, they were created. And we need to actually have love and compassion for these structures, and especially the people working in these structures, so that through the love and compassion we hold for them, they can soften their fear. And maybe then all these corrupt structures can actually become the tools to create this new world.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And this, to be honest, it's not something easy. Personally, I'm still triggered when I see the way some politician acts and stuff, and these blatant lies and stuff. And it's difficult to not go into the blaming games, because the problem is that's what we have done in the last centuries. Our ancestors trying to go against it, and then the structure were anyway maintained, and the play continued. So it's to really try to start to see it from a non-dual perspective, seeing that every person, every role played is, as you said, part of a necessity, and to be more developing this compassion towards these people. And yeah, this is a daily work, I would say, today, not to go into these pointing fingers, like,
Yes.
because so much things are appearing even more into the view of everybody, even if it's still strongly denied on some level, and yeah, sometimes criticized heavily, but a lot of still truth are coming up. And
honestly, I have the same experience. And the reason also why I decided to host the Golden Age podcast is because I was getting so angry. The more I was thinking about how wrong this world is, how fucked up, how we're creating this planet, and how much corruption there is. I was like, no, I need to get away from only seeing the bad. What actually is the alternative? The alternative is remembering the bright future that is going to come, but we also need to put our energy and attention there.
Yeah, this is essential. Yeah, exactly. And this is something also, it's a daily work for me, because the mind tends to go into the old patterns of accusing and being a victim, and being the rebel, and this is something that it's a really strong point of work for me now, to be, because it's not about denying those things neither. It's to be aware of it, to see the potential truth of all these things, but not getting into that narrative of revenge and of bashing on those, because ultimately all these people, they were under the same spell, the spell of the fear of scarcity, and thus at some point lost their trust into the world, into the potentiality of the world giving them what they need, and start to go into accumulation. And some became expert of that and have been trained in many ways to do it very well. But yeah, it's ultimately people who are disconnected with themselves, because they are afraid. They are afraid of not having enough.
And even when we're on a path of awakening, even if we practice a lot of spiritual practices, it's not like we're all of a sudden only in the light, right? It's that even more and more we become aware of our own tendencies that are actually the same, that are based on fear, scarcity, and so forth. And that's often a painful experience. I had this experience. I still have it on a daily basis. And I think that's very
totally
good to acknowledge that it's not only those people outside, it's in each and every one of us.
Yeah, totally. Whatever we see in others, even if maybe in some cases it's extreme what they do, it because they have so much means that what they do has much more impact than what we do. But the mechanism of projection is so strong. Like as long as we are not able to have compassion towards ourselves, we will still kind of have this projection on others, and we are all at different learning phases. But the main core of it is, to just continue to look inside, because the outside world is just a reflection. And now it's a concept that often is used, this timeline that I really like, because, for example, we can see something online that is shocking, another level of abuse, and we have this timeline, this narrative that comes with it, and it's like, anger comes, and we get identified to it, and we get despair, and we identify with the role of victim or whatever, or we become the fighter. We're going to fight those people. But this is a specific timeline, and in fact, to go to the, let's say, Satya Yuga age, we need to drastically shift of timeline. So we need to be able to transmute those emotions in which we tend to go, because it has been narrative for us and for past generation, ancestral memories that are in our body, etc., past life, whatever, that we carry in us. And in the effort, and this is where the work is really important today, is to be able to see this narrative coming, or this timeline going there, and saying, no, I don't want to follow that, and I want to redirect my energy, my attention towards a different thing. So I think this is often depicted as what needs to be done today to, in fact, bring more this golden age. And that's why I think it's a great idea that you decide to do this podcast, because it's a way to bring it forth, to
put our attention there
for it. Yeah.
No. And you've dedicated yourself to studying, practicing, and also teaching what I appreciate so much, the precious tools of meditation and yoga. And please share a little bit, like, how can the practices of yoga and meditation help us both individually and also collectively in this transitioning from Kali Yuga to the Golden Age?
Well, meditation is essential. Yoga, I mean, for me, yoga leads towards meditation. This is even in kind of the basic definition of it. Yoga means union, so it's to reach union. And union is basically reconnecting with ourselves. And so it's the goal of meditation. So for me, all real yoga practice leads towards meditation and union. The main interest of meditation is to help you to detach from this identification to body-mind consciousness. So sensation, emotion, and thought. As long as we are totally identified to those three, we are in deep suffering, because whatever comes to our mind, we identify to it, good thought, bad thought, and so forth. Same with emotion.
As long as we identify it with
what comes to our mind, good or bad thought, we suffer from it, because it creates craving and aversion. And the same with emotion, and the same with sensation. It's not that we should not enjoy the world, but if we are totally identified to it, then if we don't get the food we want, we suffer. If we don't get the emotion we want, we suffer. So the meditation is really about creating a little bit of distance to be able to step out and turn more inward. You can say initially, you can say it's turning inward. Afterwards, you can see it's not so much inward, outward. But initially, it's a good it's a good start. Because if not, you just the play of what comes. Whatever comes means maybe the planet, your karma, your past life, doesn't really matter. Your ancestral, your DNA, doesn't matter really what we identify as being the source of that. But the problem is the identification. If you're totally identified to body-mind consciousness, means emotion, sensation, and thought, then you are suffering.
So meditation that helps to create some space, right? So
yeah,
you're not totally the slave anymore of our thoughts and emotions, but that there's a little bit space to breathe, and in this space to breathe, we can maybe at some point even start to consciously create new thoughts and new emotions.
Yeah, there is many different techniques. I would say the first importance is really to create this distance, these steps. It's more to create the ability to observe. But then you can find many forms of meditation, more, let's say, tantric form of meditation that tends to convert emotions. It can be negative emotion, obviously. Most of the time it's negative emotion towards positive emotion, changing the poison into a nectar. So there is a different form of meditation that helps this kind of process too. And there is, but I would say these are kind of the two main bases initially. And if we are able to create more this positive thought and positive energy, then you can start eventually to shift somehow timeline. This is what I was describing before, is this shifting of timeline, this moving from a narrative that leads towards a set of negative emotion towards which we tend to be identified, towards to be addicted to, towards another much lighter frequency where in fact we can think, you can feel, you can attract more this energy of Satya Yoga. So at that level, the two aspects that we just described in meditation are really important.
Sometimes I also like in meditation to really consciously invoke certain frequencies. To think like, how will I feel like when I'm full of love? How will I feel like when I have bliss in my body? How will I feel like when I'm inspired? And then just to listen what's actually arising inside of me.
Mm.
Or to just consciously program, okay, today, whoever I'm going to meet, I'm going to give love and presence to this person. Because it's not something that just happens by itself, it's also something we need to cultivate, I think.
Totally, yeah.
At least in this age. Because in this age, everything around us is constantly trying to numb us down, to put us asleep. I believe that this will be totally different once we have transformed into the golden age. Then our surrounding will constantly lift us up.
Yeah, so, the whole aspect, everything in society, from the way you build a house to the economy to the way we exchange, everybody will be just more aligned. When you look at society now, how many people are really enjoying their work?
Yes.
People are working for money just because they think, okay, I want my house, I want my car, I want my this and that, I want this last mobile or whatever. And basically it's total slavery.
It is slavery.
Not doing what you want just because you have been taught that you need to earn money in order to be happy. And it's not that money doesn't bring a certain happiness, it brings a certain comfort, definitely.
Yes.
But Satya Yoga is totally different at that level, where the idea would be that everybody would be just doing what they are meant to do. Not in order to earn a living, just to have a proper, okay life, but just to shine what they are here for. It can be gardening, it can be creating beauty, it can be doing accountancy, it doesn't really matter. Because it would be just what, it's flowing through you, what you can do and you love to do. So this is a very strong shift. And this is also one of the problems of this age, is that we are living on a planet where most people even in supposedly modern society or postmodern society, Western world, where we have till now we had a kind of abundance. Now we are kind of being exposed to scarcity at that level. But there was abundance, but there was not special happiness. It was a lot of misery. And then sometimes you go in supposedly poor in development country, and the smile are
Yes.
more strong. And it's not that all poor people are happy. That's not at all the case. You can find a lot of misery there too, but they still have often this connection to the heart. So
I was very touched. I was 20 when I first came to India. I just finished high school and I went on a plane to India. And coming from Germany, such a rich country, and there I was confronted with such extreme poverty that you all know very well from India as well. People like with no legs, no arms, just crawling on the street begging for food with the biggest smiles I've ever seen. And the culture shock was actually bigger when I returned back to Germany after a few months.
yeah,
And I saw such wealth and such unhappy faces.
yeah. I had the same experience the first time I went to India. When I came back, my first trip was only 1 month in India, Nepal. I was 22. And on the way back, it was a shock to get readjusted to that. Mostly the fact that everybody was kind of so closed. So
Yes.
like my first trip in India was mind-blowing in many levels. For me, it was reconnecting with something very deep in me, and it was scary, but at the same time so opening. And it took me 15 years to understand some of the experience I had during this first trip.
Do you remember like the first times when you realized that yoga meditation is something really, really important for you? Like, was there a certain circumstance, or what led you to your yoga practice?
Yeah, I had the chance to be. My mother is a yoga teacher, so since I'm 9 years old, she was teaching yoga. But I mean, it's a normal yoga class in Western Europe. So she was not teaching so much meditation. But there was books, there were things. So I kind of, and I somehow was experimenting a little bit with yoga just for the fun, like when I was a kid. But it's really when I went to university and I could join some more regular yoga practice. And it's really when I went to India the first time that it just blew my mind. But at that point, I didn't really think I would be teaching yoga. I was just fascinated by yoga. And it's only in my second trip that I did a training, and then I started to teach. And yeah, that first experience to be at the end of a yoga class and to hold the final relaxation, to guide the final relaxation, was such amazing experience. I just felt this energy, somehow the body thanking you. The bodies were lying down around thanking you, or I don't know. I felt this expansion of my own energy and the connection with their energy, and this was like, wow. I did yoga because I wanted to kind of improve my meditation, because before that training, I did a Vipassana and I fell in love with thinking, okay, I'm going to meditate more, like doing retreat and stuff. I had already a regular practice of meditation before, but then I really start to connect to deeper level of practice. And then I came to yoga because I thought it could help me for my meditation. But when I had this experience of leading the final relaxation, I felt like, wow, this is magic, and this is so beautiful. And it's just a form, you can say it's a form of meditation. It's just a guided meditation of a person lying down instead of sitting. and that's really what is the richness of teaching yoga and meditation, being the vector of that grace. It's so rich, it's just amazing just to be able to be part of that.
Thank you, and I hope that also this conversation might inspire the one or the other person to just give it a try and maybe just go to a yoga class, go to a meditation class. And it doesn't even matter what tradition or what teacher, just to start, I think is the most important.
Yeah, totally. Like at the end, I've explored so many forms of meditation, like mantra meditation with so many mantras that are all different kind of energies, small, short mantra, long mantras. Like I don't even remember how many mantras have been practiced since I started, and very various form of meditation, more with energy, more with concept, more with sensation, more with emotion, more with just simple awareness. It really doesn't matter. It's really to connect with that. After that, obviously, you will find some affinities with some practice. Some practice will correspond more. I mean, some people are more mindy, so they need sometimes things that work initially more with this kind of energy. Some other people are more heartful, so it's more easy for them to connect with that. Ultimately, it's good to kind of experiment with different, but often still to stick to, at the same time, one type of practice that really resonates, and just to carry on. Because if not, we tend to try so many things. And in India, we say it's the Ganesha effect. So generally, when you do first something, you get, it's easy. It's like, wow, it's great. And then you try a second time and resistance start to come. So it's important to find one technique and to kind of deepen the work in it, and then eventually to start to experiments with others. But it's good to have one base to connect with.
Well, thank you, Manu, for dedicating yourself to really explore the nature of our consciousness through yoga meditation. And I know you're based in France. You just moved to a new place where you're opening a small new retreat center. And if someone would like to know more about your work there, or maybe visited you at the retreat center, how can they find you?
For the moment, we only have the previous website. We didn't create a new one. But they can already see a little bit what kind of work we're doing there. The name will be given. It was called Centre Amata, AMATA, and it was on the east part of France. But now we moved to a new location that is more appropriate to create a little retreat and workshops. I intend also at some point to be more available online. So I do think that this previous website will still carry on with the information for everything and links towards the new place, and my own website that also needs to be reactivated. I'm a little bit, we call it in Tibetan Buddhist bardo, in the times of transition in between two different places.
And please say again the name of the website.
Project. So it's a www.centre, CENTRE dash amata, AMATA.com.
Beautiful.
So yeah, that's again the previous activity we had, but it carries the flavor of what we're gonna also do in the new location.
Great. Thank you very much, and thank you also for this conversation that put our process of humanity and our own processes a little bit more in the bigger perspective, and I think can give us a lot of hope about the bright future, not only of this planet, but also of ourselves, that at some point we are going to rediscover and re-experience. So thank you very much for reminding us of that.
Thank you for inviting me and leading me towards speaking about all this, because it's always consciousness speaking to consciousness, and that's the beauty of teaching.
Yes.
That we are in fact reminding ourselves, hearing ourselves speaking to the others. That's why I love teaching so much, and it's just that process is magical. So thank you.
Thanks, man.